Yeah, guy. Holy mackerel. Yeah, guy, David. It's Thursday, 12/28, December 28th. It's 7 o'clock in the morning. And I see you have your AG1 there. You're shaking it up. You know what I love about my AG1
Tell me.
is, well, I have some gastrointestinal issues. And the AG1 has some probiotics in it, which are helping immensely with some of my GI issues. And plus, just one scoop of AG1 covers all the other supplements I used to take. Those are all gone now. I just use AG1 and AG1 only, and it covers all my bases. And again, I'm specifically excited for the probiotic factor.
I used to have a little bit of digestive issues just from aging and eating too much and eating everything. And I really do feel like it's kind of quelled some of that stuff. And it does probiotics and prebiotics. And I think there's digestive enzymes too. So that's a huge plus for me. But drinkag1.com/surf for anybody who wants to get on board. That's how they support us. You'll get 5 free travel packs plus a year supply of vitamin D. 90-day money back guarantee as well. So why wouldn't you do it? But yeah, holy mackerel. I suppose that's related to what Swell is starting to pound the Southern California coastline right now. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, I am. I have the Mavericks cam up, and I pulled it up this morning, and it was obviously nobody out. And I was like, oh, maybe it's just because it's a little bit unruly. It's a little disheveled. It looks a little bit like the floorboard of a teenager's car. It's a little bit disgusting. And but there are already 8, 9 skis in the water. I haven't seen anyone ride a wave, but it has that look like it's almost towable. I mean, these guys never cease to amaze us what they paddle into these days. But I don't know. It looks like they're all sussing it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. What's going on in San Diego and why aren't we surfing right now instead of podcasting?
Well, we're going to surf probably later, right?
Okay, good.
San Diego is the swell is filling in. It's going to
Yeah.
be pumping all day long. I'm watching a set here in San Diego now. It's easily a 6 foot wave, and I think it's just going to get bigger. It's a long, long westerly swell, so it's got these long lines in it, and it's going to be an exciting afternoon of surfing. It's sort of an experts only situation, not for the faint of heart today.
Yeah, there's I'd say the next 24 to 30 plus hours probably. So the next day or two of waves. And I feel the same way as you. It's like no rush to get out there today. Just kind of wake up and let it fill in. I think there's probably going to be too much energy for a lot of spots around here. So maybe try to find some shelter. But I'm in slow mode today. Assess and pick your poison. And also know your limits, and I certainly feel that way from watching what's been going on in Hawaii this past week, but just really, it's wintertime. This feels like it feels like we're going to have like a kind of epic or good winter. And I feel a seriousness with it that I don't think I've felt in recent years.
I know I have what I always get, which is sort of a winter anxiety, and I really hate it. I know you and I always bring this up with you, and I bring it up with my wife, and she's like, "Every year you go through this. Why are you doing this to yourself?" And I'm trying to get to the place where I don't care about huge incoming swells anymore, but I still do. And with that comes like all these silly all this silly crap that goes on between my ears about, is it going to be crowded? Where's the tide? All these stupid little things that are so myopic and self-centered that it's embarrassing, quite frankly, to tell you about.
Yeah, if it's like a summertime combo swell, it's all fun and games, it's like, oh, whatever, I'll just grab whatever board, it doesn't matter, just go get a few waves. But with this, it feels like this is the pinnacle of the year. This is what it all builds up to.
I
And
hate that.
how many more are there going to be? Is this going to be the one of the year? Like, I really need to make the right decisions here. But beyond that, there is also wellness concern, you know, like I've aged. I'm not nearly as flexible. I'm not nearly as nimble. I went bowling the other day for 2 hours.
Oh my
I,
God.
I am tore up, dude. Like my whole backside, basically buttocks down through the leg is just so sore. I'm limping from bowling. And I'm just like,
God.
man, this is old age. This is what old age
Yeah.
feels like.
Yeah. You're gonna have to go 75 hard here. We're gonna re-engage 75 hard in January. Let's do this.
I was gonna ask, have you been backsliding through the holidays?
No, well, a little bit, but not. The thing that's great is that once you go through 75 hard, you have such a great baseline. Like
Mm,
I'm still working. Like I do 60 sit-ups and 45 push-ups every other day. And I go to yoga and then I surf and work out. In those surf, I try to get a workout in, just paddling around. So I'm kind of there. I've got a good baseline, but I was speaking with my daughter. We are keyed into a January going 75 hard, which means two workouts a day, 45 minutes each. One of those workouts outside, a gallon of water, a diet that we select. No, mine will be no dairy, no processed foods, no breads, that kind of thing.
um, not to make this a total advertisement, but that's how I feel about AG1 as well, is it's my baseline. You know what I mean? And then I can kind of I eat poorly, certainly this last week or two. And that's not erased by the AG1, but at least I have the foundation of the AG1. So it's not 100% bad food in that day. It's just bad food on top of the foundational stuff. Um, but when you say you do 60 push-ups, 45 push-ups, 60 sit-ups, what are the sets broken into?
20, three sets of
Okay,
20 sit-ups and three sets of 15 push-ups.
gotcha. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Well, impressive. I'm glad you're holding it together. Good job. That'll keep you in the water. Um,
Yeah.
but New Year's is always a great reset for sure.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be good.
Um,
Yeah.
Not to detour from the swell talk, but how was
That's okay.
Christmas, by the way?
Christmas was wonderful. We
Okay,
had a
good.
wonderful dinner with the family, and yeah, everything's good.
You have both kids in town?
No, just my daughter. She lives here in San Diego. She just got a new job with one of the surf industry companies. I won't say who. And yeah, she's doing great. Everyone's doing great.
Would you
Good
cook?
food. I did bake some cookies, David. I baked some shortbread cookies, and those were sort of, not good. A lot of butter, a lot of sugar, and I occasionally I tried a little bit of cheese. I had moments of cheese, which is interesting. But what did I cook? I made steaks,
Nice. What cut?
filet mignons. The
Nice.
filet, yeah, I have pretty much a foolproof way. Seared in the oven, boom, boom. They're perfect every time.
Nice.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
Well, as it relates to Swell event, have you been checking out what's going on in Hawaii? It's been kind of
I have,
nonstop.
yeah, it's been incredible in Hawaii. I have been looking at the pipeline cam on occasion, and I knew because I checked the forecast a lot. I knew they were going to have a great run of surf. Um, there's been a little bit of freaky wind occasionally, but yeah, they've been scoring. What did you see? What specifically are you referring to? It seems like you're building up to a moment that you saw that was incredible.
There wasn't an individual moment. I was just surprised how many injuries we've already seen this year. Did you see Koa Rothman's face?
No, I haven't seen this.
Koa Rothman's and Eli Olson as well, both of them
Uh-oh.
had pretty significant wipeouts and hit the reef and had their face kind of torn apart,
Oh
half of
my
their
God.
face on either side for each of them. And then, of course, last month we were talking about Joao Chianca's near-death experience. And then during the Pipe Masters, we did not discuss, but Emio Sersmack from Hawaii, or from Tahiti, from Chopu, um, he had a wipeout in one of his heats with the Florence brothers that he ended up in the hospital because there was a Peruvian kid too, I believe. I forget his name, who had a wipeout in the last week or two. that ended up in the hospital. So we're talking five surfers, five like good surfers, but four fully like A-list, top of the heap surfers who have been hospitalized due to pipeline. And so really makes me realize like without the water safety out there, these could be deaths easily. And I think that it's maybe reflection of how crowded it is out there. I mean, it's obviously a very dangerous wave, but those surfers, um, I think with that many people in the lineup, you then have it just creates that many more obstacles and variables, and you're not picking the line you want, maybe not picking the wave you want, maybe not being as selective as you would be. And so you're just going on whatever opportunity is available to you. And then you put yourself in these situations. And without the water patrol, there's no way. I mean, we'd have way more deaths, essentially.
Yeah, it brings up an interesting conundrum, which is if we pull the water patrol, do we lose some of the crowd? And then actually it becomes safer because people, because you mentioned selecting of waves. I think that's the big one. Even if you're Koa Rothman, who's probably, whatever, 1A, 1B, he's right in the top 5 of guys who probably can get his pick of surf, regardless of where you are in the totem pole there. When you flip and you're like, okay, this is the one, you flip and you start digging and it's crowded, you're kind of like, well, if I pull back now, I'm going to lose my spot. So I'm committed, I'm going. Whereas if it's less crowded, you might be like, you know what? There's only 20 guys out. I'm going to actually wait another 10 minutes and pick you know what I mean? Like, so the crowd does affect your focus and your selection of wave. And so, I mean, look, they'll never, and they shouldn't remove the water patrol, but it brings into that. You just wonder, like, okay, are there more people out because there's water patrol? I don't know. I actually don't think so. I think there would be that many people out regardless because Hawaii's just because the guys that are out are super hardcore. There's just a lot of hardcore good pipe surfers now. There's just the bottom line is there's easily 40 guys that deserve to be out there, like that aren't in the way, so to speak, but are probably in the way.
Yeah. Well, maybe seeing stuff like this gives people a reminder, like, I mean, because honestly, that's kind of how I felt about it. It was a real, I mean, maybe that's why I was talking about our Southern California swell the way that I was, is I see that and I just think, wow, okay, I'm got no delusions at this point in my life to think I want any of that. I'm just going to be happy to surf the comfortable, fun waves that I surf regularly and not have to be in fear of losing my life.
Yeah, that's the one cool thing about getting older is that, like, when these swell events happen, I'm personally like, if I can get 3 set waves,
Mm-hmm.
the rest is gravy. Like if there's anything else after 3 good set waves, the rest is all just, you know, cherries on top. So that's kind of nice, and but the anxiety still lingers. There's this anxiety that's attached to ego that
Yeah.
I'm wrestling with. And the bottom line is, the real bottom line is nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares
Except,
what's going on between my ears except me. Like, there's nobody that's like, oh, did you see Scott? He only got 2 waves, not 3. Like, who cares? Nobody cares. Nobody fucking cares. Excuse my French. But,
I
we
mean,
need to put $1 in the curse word kitty pot.
the Volcom, or not the Volcom, the Pipe Pro, the WSL event, announced a new sponsor I think yesterday, actually.
Really?
Yeah, presented by
Sonora?
presented by Lexus.
Wow.
I know.
That's
Um,
interesting.
well, what else is interesting is,
Who's making that sale? That's what I wonder. It seemed like Elo was the guy that was like making sales. Like he was the guy like, okay, you've set up a meeting with him. I'm going to go meet with them. Like who's the guy that's actually meeting with these people? Who's in the sales department there? Because the hats off, tip of the cap.
well, okay, Lexus Pipe Pro presented by Yeti. Um, Now, what's funny about this, and I mean, it's not funny, but Florence Marine X and Visla have
Yeah.
also announced that they're partnering to outfit everybody at the event, right? So it seems to be like that partnership isn't a headline sponsor, I guess, for the event, but we both talked about it, I think, when it happened, that we were glad to see it, like we like that. While brands have gone corporate, the original surf brands have gone corporate and publicly traded, the it leaves gaps and room at the bottom for core brands to kind of, you know, supply us with our needs that are designed specifically for the sport itself. And so we were glad to see them back involved in the professional surf space, because we thought maybe this is a good sign. And I'm still glad about that. But then to see, it feels like this announcement trumps that announcement. And in fact, the Florence Marine X and Vissla logos are nowhere on the poster or the announcement that the WSL made. So I'm sure that there is in those agreements specifics about, you guys as the clothing sponsors provide X, Y, and Z, and you get this much exposure. And then the headline sponsor, of course, isn't providing anybody with Lexus transport or cars or anything like that, but they just get the placement on the poster. But it still felt like just a little bit like, well, what happened to the original brands?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
And
yeah. That's kind of what.
the comments even said that. Like, I just pulled up the Instagram, and yeah, people were commenting on that precisely. So
Well, more will be revealed. We shall see. Now we have a show that's sort of based on looking back and looking forward. Is there any more current news that we need to touch on before we get into that?
no, not necessarily. We can go into reflections and projections.
By the way, they are towing at Mavericks. There's one tow team. Looks like a
That
guy's
makes
going to
sense.
catch the first wave of the morning right now. The ski is in front of him. He's at the top of the wave. He let go of the rope. He's riding. He's a tow rider, and he's going to jump into the bottom section. No, he kicked out.
Mm.
Okay. Anyway, enough about that. I was trying to do my play-by-play.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, I've not seen a lot of tow days at Mavericks.
Well, it's unruly. It's offshore. Like the wind is offshore, but the situation. I looked at it last night, and it was like 40-knot gale onshore. It was just torn to shit. So the wind switch. It's trying to comb through it, clean it up, and condition it. But much
Nope.
like your hair, it's just unconditionable.
Yeah, I appreciate that comparison. I would like to think I have a head of hair like Mavericks.
Oh, there's some big waves coming in there for sure. Okay, well, look. Tell me about your favorite moment in the surf world in 2023.
Look,
Favorite moment in the surf world,
it's great.
2023.
It's a great exercise, I think, to do, because we forget. We roll from week to week so fast, that it's almost, I'm sure that we forget actually the vast
Yeah.
majority. But one stood out for me as I thought about this question, head and shoulders above the rest, and that was Luke Shepherdson winning the Eddie.
What a great call. I totally forgot about that one. That's a great one. Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, I go for it. We can just go, we can over talk one another on this subject, because it was that exciting. I mean, there's no better storyline. And I mean, even to the point that what moment of 2023 could they make a Hollywood film about? This would be
Yeah.
the one. And it would almost be this feels like a cheeseball Disney movie, because it's that far-fetched, like
Totally.
like
Totally.
Kurt Russell. I mean, he's an outdated example now,
Yeah.
but I don't
No,
know
that's
why he
good.
came to my mind. But it's like
Yeah.
he's past his prime and his back hurts, but he gets back on the gridiron one more time to try out for the NFL and becomes the star quarterback and wins the Super Bowl. Like, that is what this is.
Well, here's the other thing is that they use the winning monies to pay for the special cancer cure that solves the little girl's cancer.
That would be, yeah, that would be
Right.
part of the film as well.
Let's make it cheesy. Come on.
And I mean, to be honest, well, I don't know why I said Kurt Russell. Pedro Pascal looks exactly like Luke Shepherdson, so he would
Yeah.
play the role, except he's a little older now. But I mean, that was just such a phenomenal storyline. For those who don't remember or weren't there or weren't listening to us at the time, Luke Shepherdson is a North Shore lifeguard, works at Waimea, and he got an invite to the Eddy, but he was working that day. Obviously, it's a huge, in order to run the Eddy, it has to be a massive swell. So they need all lifeguards on duty that day. So he took breaks to surf his heat. He got official approval to take a break to go surf his heat. And in doing so, he won the Eddy. And
So great.
it's
So
so,
great.
and won it in spectacular fashion. Like no questions asked. It's not like John was injured that year or something like that. Like he took down everyone while he was on duty as a lifeguard. Then after winning, got back in the tower and made rescues that day.
Yeah, he had like a spam sandwich in his hand, you know, like he missed his lunch break, so he was eating spam and making rescues. It was just completely Hawaiiana, you know. Oh, we've got a rider. A lot of tow guys. Not a lot, there's three, but guys are riding waves and it is huge. Okay, well look, here's my favorite moment, if you let me, of 2023. And it isn't something that was reported on, but it
Mm.
happened a lot. It happened a lot, and it happened around the world. Surfers surfed really good waves, fun waves, with just a few friends, a few mates. It might have been on a surf trip, it might have been at the local break, but they surfed hard. They had one of those sessions where tubes and turns were had by all, maybe not backdoor spinning tubes, maybe just a few slight cover ups, but a long, glorious session where everything came together, everything clicked. And then the evening contemplation over a nice dinner at sunset, perhaps at Punta Colorado's, a prime rib at Lele's, a fish dinner on the Bouquet, a big bowl of hot lamb stew in Ireland, maybe a pint or two, for sure, a couple of beers. Real memories were made around the world by really engaged, enthused core surfers. Everlasting memories were created and they will be recalled forever, really. This is really special surfing that occurred in 2023. And it might not be like Ethan Ewing level carves or Matt Miola level aerials, just some incredible fun surfing with good friends. None of this WSL BS, no ELO BS, no edits, no followers, no fakers, no Instagram, just surfed out and stoked over a killer meal with a few buds. It happens all the time. It happened last year. It's going to happen this year. And it's really what this whole shebang is all about. Surfing as more than a lifestyle, but as the essence of who we are. That's my favorite moment in 2023.
My favorite moment every year.
Yeah.
What's your best post surf meal?
Wow. I guess, I mean, this sounds like a Last Supper type of situation. All this,
It doesn't have to even be supper. It could be breakfast.
my favorite
This actually sounds like an inertia article.
does horrible. I'm going to say what I always eat, which is like egg whites and spinach with chopped up vegetables and my favorite sauce on top with avocado.
Um, that's perfect because I was thinking through my 20s, a burrito. Like I'd get
Oh
out
yeah,
of the water and breakfast burrito, the biggest one you could find, the greasiest one. You just like need sustenance and calories. And now to me, that sounds disgusting. You know, like,
it sounds like a nap.
exactly. Yeah. It sounds like detrimental to my day, or 1/4 of it sounds good, but that's about it. 1/8 maybe. So it's
Yeah,
so funny how over the years, yeah, the breakfast you just described is like, okay, yeah, that'll fuel me. I'll feel great and I'll continue going through my day.
yeah, and a cup of tea and for sure some AG1, And my whole thing is surfing. My meal usually makes me tired.
Hmm.
I'm trying to figure out how to not do that, and frankly, I usually mix in a cup of tea.
Yeah.
And by
That's
the
way to
way,
do it.
that meal happens past noon. I usually eat at like 12. My first meal is at 12:30 or 1 o'clock.
Yeah. Me too. Um, well, good. Great moment. What about podcast moments? Do you have any favorite moments from interviewing people or anywhere else?
Yeah, that was a tough one. I was reflecting on that, and frankly, I didn't interview a whole lot of people this year. And so the recent ones that I did, I asked,
You're
offered the job as you can't hear me.
you just cut out for some reason. You asked what?
I'm going to switch to my other speaker.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the other ones are better for sure.
Hold on to this. How about now? Can you hear me now or no?
Way better.
Okay. Well, I hope the first part of the show wasn't bad.
It's still usable, but this is way better.
Oh man. Okay. So my favorite podcast moment, when asked if they were offered the job as the new WSL CEO, would they take it? Matt George said resoundingly yes. And he was kind of pro wave pool as well, which shook me a little bit. And Barton Lynch said resoundingly no. He wouldn't take the job, although he did throw a caveat out there, which was unless I had complete, say in it and I wasn't micromanaged and had to, yeah.
That says a lot.
Yeah.
So Barton is, I think, saying he feels that he's qualified for the job and he knows exactly what to do to, execute what we want with the sport, but he does not feel confident that that organization will allow anybody to execute that goal.
That's exactly right.
The org has ideals and objectives that will not allow to run the best surfers in the best waves, essentially.
Yeah, and we'll get to some of that more when we get into my predictions. We'll talk a little bit more about that.
Okay.
What about you? Your favorite podcast moment? You did a bunch of interviews.
Yeah.
You've been the what is it when you're just super consistent with good stuff? Prolific.
10 years deep into 52 episodes a week, buddy. It's
That's gnarly, dude. That is so gnarly. I don't know how you do it. That's crazy.
Well, I'll tell you how and why. I think it could be answered in this question about favorite podcast moments. I forget, again, talking about doing something week in and week out, is you forget all of the memorable experiences because you're just rolling straight into the next. And almost like your answer about all the great meals and all the great sessions, don't forget about them. Like this is what it's made of, and this is what you look back and reflect on. So when I look back on the year and try to decide like favorite podcast moments, I think of Troy Eckert and that barrel that he got in Baja at the beginning of the year. And then he posted about it on Instagram, and it was this real philosophical assessment of all of the work that went into that, and then kind of release, or all the work that he did for decades of the anxiety with swell events that you were talking about. And then getting to the point where he was 50 years old and releasing all of it. And then that wave came to him. And when he describes the way that the day unfolded, it really did. Like it was a parting of the crowd, and he happened to be in the right place. He happened to have the right board, and he happened to just not try to even oversurf it, just kind of let it all come together. And his reflection on it was just that everything that he had been trying to do for so long was probably helped put him in that position, but also was contrary to how he should have been preparing for that position, And so, and it was one of the best waves he ever got in his life. And so now the pursuit is entirely different. And whether or not he gets that best wave of his life again, it is irrelevant. It doesn't matter, because every wave and every moment is delivering the enjoyment and enrichment that one wave provided for him. So it's a really, really, he's an enlightened individual, and hearing him communicate about it, and the visuals of the wave itself are just so stunningly beautiful, So I thought that was really inspirational and wonderful to hear. But then beyond that, mid-year, I got to connect with Chris Malloy up on his ranch and spend most of the day with him, and then record a podcast episode, for literally 4 hours. It ended up becoming 2 episodes. And equally interesting guy, just in very different ways, but somebody that I admired and really freaking like was a fanboy of for my first 15, 20 years of my surfing experience. And so what the podcast has done for me, or what doing it every week for 10 years has done for me, is allow me to have certainly conversations with people that I've always admired, but really kind of become friends with them and experience their world and spend time with them and even have their admiration. Like so many of them are like, dude, I've been listening for years, or I really appreciate your contributions to the surf world and all that sort of stuff. And if I didn't have the weekly commitment to do it, I wouldn't do it. So for some reason, I just decided like, we're going to do this stuff weekly. And so then you feel an obligation to the listeners to like, oh, shoot, I got to get an interview done for next week. Like, who do I interview? And then I get busy and I make it happen. But if it wasn't that obligation to the listeners, I would have stopped doing it a long time ago, or I would have just procrastinated it. And as a result of all of that obligation and work, now I have these experiences and these friendships with people that I venerated for so many years before. So it's all worked out really, really well.
Yeah, like I said, tip of the hat. It's hard. What you do is extremely difficult. I don't think people realize how difficult it is, because the weeks just fly by, and all of a sudden you're like, shit, I just did one of these 2 days ago, and now I've got to scramble. As you know, I produced uh, a terrestrial surf radio show for years, and I had to weekly come up with stuff, much like you do with this show, where you're like, oh shit, Scott, I'm gonna have to carry Scott through this show. I'm gonna have to produce the show. But I'm trying to do my best with that, but it's tough what you do. And you know, I've I've curtailed because of I've burned out, and I hope you don't burn out. Regardless, what's important is that each and every show that you do and I do, each interview we do, we're excited about it. And the moment that you're like not excited about an interview, then that's when it's like, okay, let's peel back a little bit and just change the schedule or whatever. But again, tip of the hat to you for all you're doing. It's amazing.
Thanks. Thanks. Yeah. The excitement thing is right. Like if you didn't enjoy it, then yeah, I would stop doing it. I'd figure out a reason or an excuse at that point to pull the plug. But the reality is I love surfing just purely like and intensely. That's not going away. And then I like talking to people. I like engaging with people. That's not going away. So those two things, I just have to find the people in the surf world who are doing something that's interesting to me. And then it's easy at that point.
Let me ask you this. What is easier to produce, an interview-based podcast or a topical like this type of podcast?
They're equally difficult in their own ways, I would say.
Yeah.
I
I
think,
find that the interview ones are a little easier for me because I know the basic kind of outline chronologically that I'm going to go through. And if you've listened to my podcast, they're kind of like, okay, let's start with when they grew up, and let's and because we like listening to people, usually people will just take off. And
yeah,
then the interview just kind of happens on its own. It turns into more of a discussion than like here's my next question.
right. Yeah. I think it really depends on the person you're interviewing and how effective of a communicator they are, because I've had some that are like pulling teeth,
Yeah.
and I've had some that I've just not published as a result of that,
Yep.
just fully trashed. And
Yeah.
what?
That's always hard when they're like, hey, where's my podcast? You're like, it didn't come out. So I didn't publish it.
Right. Yeah. And then, yeah, but on the flip side, so easy communicator on that side makes that job easy. But on this side, if it's a busy news week, then it's super easy.
Yeah.
Like you and I don't have to prepare anything almost. We could just riff. But what about in reflection of the year, favorite surf news moment?
Well, I thought about this long and hard, and I think in a weird way, my favorite news moment was when Eric Logan was let go.
Me too.
It's Elo's gone. there was secrecy around it. It was kind of like, whoa, it was like everyone in the surf world kind of popped up and went, whoa, what just happened? You know, and there's not a peep of news coming out of anywhere. There's tons of conjecture. It was straight TMZ level Hollywood BS. That was rather fitting for Eric, you know. But it's also a little bit sad because we were led down this sort of vacuous mainstream reality TV show that might be on Nickelodeon, but it ended up being the WSL. And so it's kind of sad, but that's definitely the sort of the pinnacle of the surf news, I think, this year.
Well, yeah, I agree with you entirely. That was my number one news story as well. And it's funny, I don't want to celebrate somebody being fired.
Yeah.
So that's the one caveat here. But then when I really think about why was it my favorite news story, it's because I was glad he was fired. So so I don't want to celebrate it, except that is the reality of the situation is that, and I'm going to break it down into two things. I don't know Eric Logan as a person, so I can't, this isn't like a personal vendetta or anything like that. But the two things that I can break it down into is the performance in the job, which I would say not only did he underdeliver on his projections and his what he set out to do, he absolutely failed at those things, and I can walk you through the list of things. But the things that he set out to do were the wrong things in the first place for me, in order to, for me in my eyes, in terms of what I would want to see as the viewer or what I feel like is a true, uh, authentic representation of surfing, which would be man and woman versus nature, put the best surfers on the best waves. So I feel like he executed poorly on those things, but behind the scenes, and what I think was fueling a lot of my criticisms of his performance throughout was rumors about him being a little lecherous on tour and with females, and him being a little bit too friendly. And we'd see this on his Instagram posts, even, where it was like, dude, why are you publishing that? Like, trying to be overly friendly with everybody. And so that was the rumors behind the scenes. And we couldn't talk about that publicly at the time, because it's like, well, does so and so who voiced this concern want to come on and talk about it? I don't want to tell that person's story for them. And if they're not willing to put their hand up and say it, then I'm just, then I look like the asshole basically at that point. So that's what's going on behind the scenes over time. And then the circumstance of the firing was so suspect that it's like, wow, all these rumors we've heard feel like they'd been getting kind of more, I don't know, I'm hearing them more frequently. And then some big firing happens, and it happens mid-event, and there's no explanation, and there's no CEO replacement to fill that void. Like, holy cow, is this the fire related to all the smoke that we had been hearing? And I still don't know. I have zero to report on that. I don't know. And so then you and I speculated on air, and it seems like, well, whatever happened between two people who signed NDAs. There was probably money that was paid out to either party, and they're now incentivized to not talk about it. And so we're never going to know, essentially, because it would be a legal matter at that point. And that's where we're left. And so it's pure speculation at this point. But when I say, why is this my number one news story? And it's, those are the reasons I'm happy. There was these things happening that I felt like surfing as the WSL professional body had taken this so inauthentic path that is not a reflection of anything. Plus the person doing it, I'm hearing these rumors about that really, again, I don't know him as a person, but that if I did know these things to be true and I did know this person, then I would absolutely not be able to stand by this or support this, because it's a kind of character flaw. And so, yeah, glad to see him go, glad to not have to deal with this anymore, glad to not have people that I know and friends that I know and the sport that I love be driven down this path. So it was absolutely my number one news story.
Yeah, that's the news moment of the year for you and I. This sort of leads me into predictions. I don't know if you want to go there or if you.
Sure.
So my prediction for 2024 is that the new CEO of the WSL will be announced. It's going to happen soon, mid-January, I think at the latest, for sure before the first event of the year. It will be a hardened core surfer with experience in and around the contest situation framework and with experience with the current WSL. Whomever it is, the announcement will come soon. It will be the most important decision that Dirk Ziff makes regarding WSL leadership, because I think we're at a tipping point here. This person will have vision, and most importantly, Dirk Ziff will have to agree to get out of the way. No micromanaging. There will be an implementation of new judging framework, not just judging criteria, a completely new judging vision, logistics, policy, criteria. The WSL schedule will have to be adjusted. The size of the tour will change. And in addition, my prediction is that there will be a new advisory board that has authority and teeth. And some of the people perhaps on that board include the likes of Bob Hurley, Jake Patterson, Ross Garrett, Daryl Handley, Barton Lynch, Kelly Slater, Paul Nod, and others to be determined. And David, the new CEO of the WSL, is Peter Mell.
Wow. I mean, is this pure optimism on your behalf, or do you have any insights that are making you say this?
No, this is just my prediction. My prediction. This is the prediction segment.
This is a very optimistic prediction. I love it.
Predictions they're optimistic.
I know. I love the childlike optimism that you still maintain for this thing. I would love to see that. I cannot imagine that would be the direction that they would go. I just cannot.
Yeah.
I also, is Pete, no offense, is Pete CEO material?
I think he is. I think that's a really legitimate question, you know. The others that I mentioned on the board all seem like CEO material, except for maybe, you know, one or two. But I think we've all seen enough of Peter Mell to know that he could handle the job, that not only handle it, but be really good at it, you know. And I think it would require Pete to kind of step up a little bit, you know, like I don't really see Pete as like spreadsheet guy. I see Pete as big vision guy.
See,
and he'll have spreadsheet guys underneath him.
I see Pete as vision guy, but I don't see him as big vision guy. And I don't see him as spreadsheet guy either. I think Pete absolutely has a role in the organization. So I guess there's two directions that you can go with this, right? The question is, do you want to grow this business exponentially? And in that scenario, Pete's not the guy. Other question is, do you want to have a small core of loyal fans and followers? And in that scenario, Pete could be the guy. He would be one of a handful of guys who could absolutely execute that goal. And the board that you're talking about, Scott hands, because you could do it too.
No, I just don't want to interrupt you.
And the board that you mentioned would also absolutely help him execute that goal.
I think what we're missing here is you just mentioned two different scenarios. I think the two different scenarios are, do we want to grow this business exponentially over the years, or are we trying to sell this business? Which there's been some rumors out there that it's been for sale. And it wouldn't surprise me if Dirk's just like, for God's sakes, let's get this. This thing's a pain in my ass. Let's sell this thing. So if we sell it, and by the way, I was struggling trying to come up with a name for the new CEO. It was easy to fill out the advisory board with Bob Hurley, Jake Patterson, Ross Garrett, Darren Handley, Barton Lynch, Kelly Slater, Paul Nod. Those guys could all be great CEOs. I don't know if any of them wants that job. And frankly, I'm not sure Daryl Hanley would be a CEO type, but he'd be good
Darren.
to have on the board, giving some sort of shape or insights. So help me find this hardcore, hardened CEO type. I always think of Rabbit. Rabbit's too old for this position.
Fernando Aguirre.
Well, he kind of falls into these other guys, into that level of these other guys on the advisory board. Fernando, I don't think would take the job. Like Bob Hurley's not going to take the job. Bob Hurley would be great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Paul Naudet would be great. Paul Nod would be great.
Yeah.
Like that guy's going to get shit done.
Yeah.
But for various reasons, there's some conflicts of interest.
Yeah. Well,
CEO. And so I was like, Peter is that hardcore. Like I always wanted to be a guy that we can all go, look, the guy's got the chops in the water. First thing, you got to have the chops in the water, in my opinion. You got to have everyone go, this guy knows exactly what he's talking about in the water and in and around the contest formats with Pete, which Peter does. And so
what about Evan Slater?
Yeah, maybe.
See, I want to see somebody who's worked in a corporate environment for an extended period of time and understands the management of a large or a medium-sized corporation.
Yeah, Evan would be a great choice that didn't pop up into my mind when I was doing this yesterday, but Evan would be one that would be on the short list for sure.
Yeah. I want to see somebody who has worked in that environment, it has the qualifications that you already mentioned, but it's also worked in an environment where they've grown a business and then has a very ambitious vision for what they could do.
See, my thing with Peter and with Evan is that they're too close to it almost. Like they're too much like, okay, we'll just make these small little tweaks. I want a big vision guy.
Yeah, I do too.
No, like we're scraping this thing. We're going to the whiteboard. And by the way, we're taking, 5 days at the Ritz in Huntington Beach or wherever, and we're going to all sit down and we're going to figure this thing out. And we're going to leave this meeting, these 3-day meetings with a new plan, and we're going to present it to the world.
Right. Yeah, I like it. Well, look, I'd be thrilled if your prediction comes through for 2024. Here's hoping. I'm backing it.
What about your predictions? And I have more, by the way.
Well, my prediction for 2023 back in 2022 was a morbid one, that somebody might die due to the overcrowding of jet skis in the lineup and like too much hubris, like surfers who are intermediate surfers thinking that they're ready for Nazare, and so they take a ski team out there. And
dude, that could be happening right now at Mavericks. I'm sitting here watching it happen, unfolding before our eyes. Your prediction.
So my prediction has not proven to be true, but there's still time left. There's a couple days left, so hopefully it does not become true. Yeah, but I just wanted to state that I was wrong. Okay. I think I got two kind of directions to go with prediction. Either Kelly Slater's retirement, which is kind of a gimme, and but people have been saying it for a decade now, and they would have been wrong every decade. But I feel like this year there's I don't see the draw for him to continue to compete. I just don't. There's a couple venues on tour now that like Cloud Breaks back that he could look forward to, but I think he can get a wild card into those events anyways. So I just don't see him doing a full year on tour. Yeah. But my real prediction, I think, just to make it a little bit more sensational, is a mass exodus on the tour. If, we talked about the Carissa Moore rumor last week, I think that could come to fruition very likely, but I could see A-list male surfers also just opting out of competition. And I think that if we did see that, well, let me put it this way. Without a very clear vision from the WSL, with a new CEO in place and clearly stated, then I could see this being the default news story that happens. And in that case, it becomes a house of cards for the WSL's business at large. If John Florence isn't competing on the world tour, if Kelly does retire, not only is that bad for their business, but that frees those surfers up for somebody else to entice them to do an alternative tour. If Red Bull or somebody just said, "Hey, you know what? There's these guys, and let's also add Jamie O'Brien and Mason Ho. Let's put $100,000 up and let's do 3 days in whatever. Name the spot, Kandui, Cloudbreak, $100,000, winner takes all. Swell. Nathan Florence is coming too. Swell of the year is coming, and let's do this." And this went so well. Let's go ahead and do it again. Let's do it 4 or 5 times a year. Boom, you have another tour that's taking place. And so I don't think that's that unlikely. I don't think that's even that big of a, that's not a big spend for somebody like Red Bull. Like, it would be dumb for them not to do it. So go ahead.
No, I was going to say, hold that thought because I'm going to take a break.
Okay, go for it.
Because I've got.
All right, good. Perfect teaser to get through the commercial break. We'll be back. All right, welcome back.
Wow. So here are my thoughts. First of
Yeah.
all, my second prediction, very similar to yours. Another competition series emerges. It is 2 brides only. Super easy to understand. Everyone can watch it. Your wife, my wife, our parents, yada, yada, yada. Everyone gets it. Relatively easy to judge. They'll have 3 events and they keep it moving around based on swell and location, just like you said, with an eye on Tahiti or Indo or mainland Mexico and a few other known tube locations. Just 3 events with a finale at the backdoor shootout. So Pipeline's the final hoorah. And perhaps a player like Tenori steps up. Tenori's Tube Fest. And it starts as a series and gets all those guys you mentioned, Jamie, Nathan, Tube Hounds, and voila, we have what you and I have been talking about.
Stab Magazine can get involved in this. I mean, they've already done the Stab High air show thing. It'd be a logical transition.
Yes, we would need some solid sponsorship dollars behind this thing to do it right, but it's going to be 12 people. It's not going to be a big deal. That way we can kind of fit it inside of the backdoor shootout. They can still have the shootout, but we still have these 12 guys.
Yeah, I mean, solid sponsorship dollars, it's not that expensive to do. I mean, you're right if you're thinking in terms of like surf brands, trying to come up with money for something like this. And then they have strong opinions about whatever. But Red Bull, they already do events. They're all about doing events. They would be just
Yeti.
it would be a no-brainer. Yeah,
You want
Yeti.
to find like a sort of a non-endemic that's just like, we just want to be attached with surfing.
Yeah, exactly. So I think these are very logical conclusions that we've been leading towards for a long time, and I would love to see them come together in 2024.
And their predictions. How about this one? Number 3. Kelly Slater and Vahini Fierro win gold at Chopu.
It's a great prediction.
Thank you.
Yeah, Kelly has to get into the Olympics first.
That's what makes it such a great prediction. There is this one caveat. We have to get Kelly sniveled in however we do it, and everyone will be happy.
Yeah. I like it. Did you have any favorite surf content, films or otherwise?
Yeah, I do. And the one that sticks out to me is one we spoke about a month ago, which is Russell Bierke's Stab Edit of the Year. I actually forget what it's called. Something. Do you remember what it's called? I could go look.
Gosh.
Russell Bierke's.
Did it have limits in the name? The outer.
Yeah, something like.
It was a play on the outermost limits of pure fun.
Yeah, let me see here. I'm going to pull it up. I hope. Are the edits of the year premium only?
I don't know.
Oh, Outer Edge of Leisure, Russell Berkey. So that's my that's my surf content of the year. That is insane. Of course, Russell, he sort of exudes this, he just, he exudes calm in what every hardcore surfer would consider a hair-raising situation. And he does it time and time again. It's phenomenal. It's not just like, hey, here's one crazy edit from this slab. It's like, here's 15 insane edits from these different slabs all over the world. And he continues to impress. Of course, Nathan Florence, Mason Ho, those YouTube channels are great.
Mhm.
And I also particularly enjoy getting Matt Warshaw's weekly emails from the Encyclopedia of Surfing. So that's my favorite surf content.
Um, if Russell Bierke had the, I don't know, entrepreneurial ambition that Nathan Florence has, he would be earning 5 times whatever he's earning right now, because his desire to surf that style of waves and talent for surfing them is right there. He just needs some big marketing machine behind him, pumping him out. And it's so easy to appreciate how crazy that is. Like for us surfers, we get it. But for the vast audience on YouTube who doesn't even surf, they would tune in and watch that because it's that freaky.
Absolutely. Yeah. He's next level, which is why that edit, everyone needs to watch that edit. It's mind-blowing. And there's something, I don't know, maybe I am getting old. And so there's something about an edit that doesn't have like, oh, errors, because you get the feeling that these guys put these edits together and they're like, I can't do an edit that doesn't have an insane error section. And I'm
Mhm.
saying to you, hell yes, you can. And you watch Russell Bierke. It's incredible. And in a weird way, I don't know. Again, I'm gonna sound old, but airs are almost kind of like, I don't know, they're losing their mojo. Am I
Mm.
wrong or am I old?
They just have to, just like slab surfing, it just has to get more intense for you to continue to be impressed by it. They have to go higher, faster, spin faster, do a crazier inversion for you to even care anymore, because Kalani Robb's full rote in the on the cover of Good Times in 1994 isn't going to cut it for you anymore.
No. Yeah, so that's why I think this Two Brides Only series makes so much sense, because it's what we all strive for. Like everybody can go, yeah, that's kind of the ultimate. I mean, isn't that the ultimate, David? Isn't getting tubes still the ultimate?
Totally.
Yeah. So why not have a series that's purely focused on that, 3 events?
Yeah, I like it. I don't disagree. My best bit of surf content is for 2023 is Bryce Young's Following the Fall Line film. It's 45-minute surf film. We would call that feature length in the surfing world. And it's just criminally underviewed. And it's a reflection of the way that we digest information in 2023. You know, a 4-minute video that doesn't take a tremendous amount of effort gets more views than a project like this that took a year plus. I mean, more than a couple of years to actually put together. And it would have even fewer views if it wasn't even on YouTube. So it's kind of like there's no, I don't know where the best home is for something like this to live, for people to actually engage with it and to watch the whole thing. But I'm telling you, it's made of 5-minute segments, and each one of those 5-minute segments would have broke the internet because the surfing is that incredible. It's that innovative, it's that relatable. It's what you're talking about, on rail surfing, except it's innovative. He's riding those Ryan Birch boards that are super narrow, um, and putting them in places on the wave that you just haven't seen people put boards on the rail before. He does airs a couple of times through it. But the film is just remarkable from beginning to end. I said at the time that it came out that I thought it was going to kind of revolutionize surfing. I think this could be kind of this could be a flashpoint in surfing where shapers are copying that style of board. Surfers are then riding those boards and trying to put them into those similar positions. And we'll see this divergence in a whole new genre and trend of surfing. And that has not transpired since. And maybe it's just because the level of talent required to ride that board is just none of us have it. But I thought it was going to be a huge moment in surfing. It hasn't become. And I think that it's criminal. People need to go spend time and watch it.
Good call. And I raise my hand and tell you I have not watched that film and I want to. I will also tell you that I just saw a guy at Mavericks on like a 60-foot wave. It was huge. And I think he got blown up, but I don't see any skis moving in to rescue anybody. So maybe he got out of it. But
Mm,
and they're doing huge carves on these little tow boards out there. It's massive out there.
wow.
Anyway,
Scary.
good call on Bryce Young's film.
Yeah.
Let's watch that thing. It's not too late. We can still watch it in 2024.
I have zero confidence that you're going to watch it, but I'm going to send you a couple of, I'm going to send you a couple of clips that I think might push you over the edge, and you'll spend your New Year's Eve kicking back watching Bryce Young.
You know where I really like watching surf edit and surf content? When I'm going on a surf trip, like when I'm on a plane, just you got plenty of time. You just get all geeked out. You share it with your buds. Oh, look at that. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And that's always a lot of fun.
Sweet.
What are you most looking forward to in 2024? What are you looking forward to? What is it that
Growth, I think, in the podcast realm, well, beyond the podcast realm, even like I've underestimated people's interest in looking at us.
you're kidding?
No. And so video assets, I think, are valuable. I actually talked a lot about this with your son at the boardroom show.
Mm.
He came over and he's like, dude, I loved the video clip that you posted of my dad and you and blah, blah, blah. And he referenced some Instagram clip. And I'm like, yeah, it's funny. Um, people, I just thought like the podcast medium is, obviously there's different mediums for different things. Podcasting's one thing, YouTube is a different thing, and like this is what we do here. But then I realized at a certain point that using the video to direct people to the podcast, using the video as marketing assets essentially on social media, will then direct people to the podcast. So that's what my thought had been for the last year or so. But now I'm realizing, and maybe the platforms have just changed, that that's an entire ecosystem in and of itself. Like, and maybe it trickles back to here, but some people just want to digest it there fully. And so it's time to, I think, kind of make some investments in that space and design content specifically for that space, social media and or YouTube specifically.
Mm. Well, that was not a very good answer.
Oh, okay.
I'm just pulling your chain because what I was hoping you would say something like this. My 2024, what I'm most looking forward to, it is my hope, David, that each and every time I paddle out, I do so with kindness in my heart, with a sense of aloha, with the purpose of enhancing somebody else's surf session through good deeds and good intentions. That's a high mark. I doubt I'll hit it. Certainly won't hit it every time. But that's what I'm looking forward to in 2024. Less me, more you.
You may not hit the mark, but setting an intention is remarkably under stated and important.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're going to serve some sort of goal or some sort of purpose throughout the day, and you might as well set an intention for what you want that to be and at least aim for it. And falling short of that will probably land you in a better position than if you just went through the day wayward anyways.
Yeah.
So
Good.
I like it.
A lack of waywardness is a good idea.
I like it.
Yes.
You're right. That's a little bit more noble-minded than my ambition for growth. But I'll tell you what, mine isn't.
Appreciate what you're doing. I'm with you. I hear you and I'm with you. And let me know how I can help.
Well, it relates to what we were talking about earlier about reflections as well, which is like, I just feel a lot of gratitude for being in the position that I'm in to be able to have these conversations and to be able to make this literally my life's work, like to not be uh, sitting on a desk crunching numbers or out there throwing away people's trash for a living or anything else really. Like to be able to kind of do this as a life's work and be able to engage with the people that we engage with and just have interesting conversations is a total delight, and I'm grateful for it. And so I see opportunities for, like I said, I underestimated people's interest in seeing our face. That's amazing. Like, people want to see
Yeah,
us.
that's
They want
weird.
to hear us and see us at the same time. Like, I guess we should just give it to them if that's what they want. Like, so how do we kind of roll that out? And I'm excited about figuring out how to do that to continue to be able to do what we do.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah, we used to have a studio where we were with each other in person. And you know, who knows? That's probably no, I can tell the lift in your lip there. You're like, that's probably not gonna happen. And I don't want it to happen. That's way too much work for both of us.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's the best case scenario. Can we teleport there?
This is Look, they don't know that you're literally in the room right next to me right now. They just don't know that. They think we're miles apart.
Yeah, I mean, look, in predictions for 2025, if teleportation becomes a reality, then we can do it then.
Okay.
I'd be
Fair.
okay with that.
Yeah. But we do have
Um,
El Salvador coming forward here. That's something to look forward to, right? El
very
Salvador
much.
for the Spit listeners. We've got a listener trip, and it's filled, of course. We've filled it quickly, and I think we're going to have some exciting news to tell the listeners at some point about that. And yeah,
Yeah, I am very much looking forward to that in terms of things in 2024. And that's April, and that'll come up so quick. It'll be here in a blink of an eye. So we don't have to look forward to it for long. It'll be here. But hey, great 2023. Thank you for all of your contributions, Scott. It's always been a delight after 10 years of this.
10 years. Wow, that's awesome. Yeah. Well, same to you. It's always fun chatting and doing the show, and you do a great job. So thanks for all your hard work.
You're welcome. How are you going to spend your New Year's? Do you have any big plans?
I don't have too many big plans. No, I don't do big plans. Like if you knew what time I went to bed, you'd roll your eyes. It's not pretty. It's early.
When was the last time, New Year's or otherwise, that you made it to midnight?
Midnight?
Mm,
Um, I don't know. I mean, if you said 9 p.m., I might be able to tell you.
decades?
Oh yeah, decades. Decades.
Yeah.
No, I don't stay up. No.
Why
Decades.
would you? Right? I mean, what is there to do? Even for New Year's, it's like watch a ball drop.
It's a bunch of rookies out there. New Year's is for young people.
Staying up late is for young people. Getting up
Yeah,
early.
I did it. I did it for years. I was really good at it. Maybe too good, some would suggest.
Yeah, it has very, very little appeal to me at this point.
There are 15 to 20 skis in the water. There's a guy riding a huge wave right now. There's a big set coming in. The swell is here, and man, it's going to be an exciting few days here.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, hey, be safe out there today and the next couple of days. Looks like we got a good little run of swell going into the end to finish off the year. So enjoy that. Take it easy. Enjoy the time off.
Yeah. All right. Well, look, David, until next week, adios and aloha.